In today's video, we're going to discuss Colby Covington and how he believes Tyron Woodley will throw the match against the problem child Jake Paul. Along with this, we'll discuss Dana White, UFC president, and why he recently has been slamming Jake Paul. If you want to learn more about these topics, then make sure to watch until the end of the video. Before we get into the video, don't forget to jab the like button and double leg take down the subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss out on any of the new videos that we post. Colby Covington believes Tyron Woodley will throw the fight. Tyron Woodley, a former UFC welterweight champion, will be Jake Paul's first opponent under his new Showtime sports deal. Colby Covington, a former UFC interim welterweight champion and top contender in the 170-pound division, recently commented on Paul's shift to boxing and predicted who would win the fight between Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley. I think Snake Paul. What is he, a little Disney Lizzie McGuire star? Question mark? That's not a real fighter. That guy's a joke, Covington told MMA Roasted Podcast. He continued, I'm sick of all these fighters. All these fighters are trying to give the MMA community a bad name. Like, dude, leave it to the guys that are in their prime. All these guys that are past their prime, washed up fighters that are out of the UFC. I'm not saying Woodley because Woodley's a former champion. He's a great fighter, but Ben Askren, come on, that guy's never thrown a punch. He's never thrown a punch in the UFC or in any MMA fight. All he does is hug the guy and try kiss him and yell sweet nothings in the guy's ear. Leave the fighting and the boxing to the real fighters. And Snake Paul, the guy's a joke. He's a little Disney star, not a real fighter. Paul will be facing an MMA fighter for the second time, but Covington believes the YouTube phenomenon has been handpicking warriors who are past their prime. Not only that, but he believes his former adversary Woodley is in desperate need of cash and will most likely go bankrupt. Paul is 3-0 in professional boxing, with all of his victories coming by KO or TKO, but he has yet to fight a professional opponent. In April 2021, he defeated fellow YouTuber and boxer in Jib, former NBA basketball player and three-time slam dunk contest champion Nate Robinson, and former MMA world champion Ben Askren. Covington continued stating on the podcast, without a doubt, he's picking these fights with the guys that are kind of toward the end of their career. Covington told MMA Junkie, make no mistakes, Tyron has a great legacy. He was a world champion a couple times, but he's past his time. He's almost 40 years old now. He's 38, 39, and Jake's taking the right steps and taking the right fights with the right fighters that are kind of at the end of their careers and don't really have enough gas left in the tank, so it's sad. But they're doing this on purpose, and I really think Tyron is going out there to take a dive. I think he's broke. He needs money. He got mouths to feed. He's got a lot of alimony paychecks to pay. So I think he's going to get out there and take a dive. It's going to be a circus, and we know boxing is the most corrupt sport in the world as it is. So this little side circus they're doing with Jake Paul, of course they're going to favor his way to make it work. It's pretty clear that Colby is not the only professional fighter who feels this way. There's been lots of controversy around these YouTubers and TikTok stars getting in the ring and acting as if they're professionals who have dedicated their lives to making a career in MMA/UFC/boxing world. On the contrary, Mike Tyson recently praised Jake and Logan Paul for bringing the spotlight back onto boxing, as UFC has been taking the spotlight when it comes to combat sports. When Mike Tyson dragged his muscle-bound frame out of the gym and into the ring to fight Roy Jones Jr. in November, it signaled a significant shift in boxing's traditional norm. On streamer provider Triller, Iron Mike had successfully hosted his comeback fight, with Snoop Dogg performing and commentating on the event. Despite the event's overall oddity and the shock of seeing a dramatically smaller Tyson, 54 years of age, roll back the years, one moment in particular struck a chord with both boxing and MMA fans. At the post-fight news conference, boxing's youngest world heavyweight champion, dressed in a nice roll neck, was asked about the influence of YouTube Jake Paul's entry into the sport. Many were surprised by his response, despite the fact that most seemed desensitized to surprises after the night's event. Boxing was pretty much a dying sport. The UFC was kicking our butt, the self-proclaimed egomaniac said. Boxing is going back thanks to YouTube boxers. Dana White slams Jake Paul again. Dana White and Jake Paul have had a long-running feud, with the UFC president even threatening legal action against the problem child for repeatedly criticizing his MMA talent. Jake Paul claims that his boxing events have paid him more money than all but 2 UFC fighters in history, and that White does not pay his fighters their due share. Dana White has replied to Jake Paul's comments following UFC 263, focusing on the younger brother's pay-per-view figures, which he still maintains are highly overstated. White commented, Jake Paul didn't do $1 million. His brother did $1 million. Floyd did $1 million. Last time we did a press conference, I told you all the Triller stuff is a bunch of crap. While White stated he believes Logan and Floyd's figures are correct, he refused to believe that Jake's fight with Ben Askren drew 1 million pay-per-view sales. He also slammed comments made by former welterweight champion Tyron Woodley, who claimed that by fighting Jake Paul, he was going to make his greatest salary ever. I've been hearing that crap forever. They're all full of crap, White snap. I keep not wanting to do this. Tyron Woodley is 40 years old. He hasn't won a fight in 3 years in something he's actually supposed to be good at, and now he's going to go box? This is the only thing that seems to be grinding White's gears when it comes to the Paul brothers. Jake Paul is set to go up against Tyron Woodley, a former UFC champion, on August 28th. After hearing his bout bout will take place, White was very quick to publicly remind everyone that Woody hasn't won a fight in 3 years, since 2018. It appears as if Jake Paul tries to pick opponents who aren't at the peak of their career. Take Ben for example. He was clearly unfit and not in the boxing physical shape in comparison to his opponent Jake. Dana remains very cynical about his upcoming boxing match and the quality of Jake Paul's boxing career. White told the press, Woodley is 39 years old, okay, he hasn't won a fight in 3 years in something he's actually supposed to be good at. Now he's gonna go box? How do you sell that fight? Lots of other things other than that matters. Jake Paul will say mean things about me. As we mentioned earlier in the video, Tyron Woodley is a UFC champ. He isn't solely a boxer, which puts Jake at an advantage as he has only been training as a boxer. Just another confirmation that Paul picks opponents that are already at a disadvantage. More beef between Paul and White. Controversy about UFC pro fighters being underpaid. Jake Paul and Triller Fight Club are without a doubt two of the most polarizing figures in today's combat sports. Far more polarizing than any of the UFC GOAT debates or disagreements over Aljamain Sterling and knees to a downed opponent. While we aren't supporters of Triller, Jake Paul, or what they stand for, they may have an unexpected benefit. John Jones, the former UFC light heavyweight champion, recently sparked controversy when he requested a significant pay hike in order to fight heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou. Former UFC athletes have also stated that the organization offers extremely little money to its fighters in comparison to the cash made from an event, which has opened up a can of worms. Jimmy Flick, a promising prospect, announced his surprise retirement after only one UFC bout, claiming that the fighter compensation is awful and that UFC fighters will never form a union for a brighter future. Given how the corporation has expanded over the last 10 years, along with the sport, fighter pay has become a contentious topic. If you ask Dana White, he'll tell you that the money his company pays its fighters smokes what you see in boxing, referring to how the numbers on Boxing Night dropped dramatically between the headlining fighters and the rest of the undercard. Jake Paul was very quick to call out Dana White publicly and slam him for not paying his fighters properly, claiming that he was actually underpaying them. This is quite a controversial topic and debated by many. Some stand with what Jake Paul said, and others believe that Jake Paul is just trying to stir up arguments with the UFC president and create more noise for his upcoming boxing match. And there you have it, Colby Covington and why he believes Woodley will throw the fight with Jake Paul, along with Dana White and Jake Paul's ongoing feud. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss any of our new and upcoming content. Thanks for watching.